Okay, so I'm going to jump in right into it, assuming that you've seen my part one and part two of Wonder Woman, the underappreciated superheroine icon. Um, the third part I want to address. Um, this is the last bit I'm going to do of her as a feminist icon. The next two bits are going to be on her rogues gallery, um, and her lack of media representation. Okay, so as I was saying in the last part, I hope I've demonstrated some of why the underlying appeal of Wonder Woman to feminists is rather benign. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to to feel some inner aggression to. She doesn't hate men. She doesn't. She in fact seeks to bring a union between men and women. And unless someone is completely oblivious to history, you have to recognize that women in years and thousands of years ago, well, even hundreds of years ago, haven't been treated the best. So she does respond to some of that, and the Amazons respond to some of that, and that's why they're isolationist at first before Wonder Woman tries to bring these two worlds together. Now, the third element of what makes her a feminist icon, which isn't explored enough, which I think again isn't anything to fear, is that she comes to our world, and there's this kind of fish out of water kind of story at first that is told of her kind of trying to acclimatize to both the wondrous vastness of the world of man, or the patriarchal world as it has evolved, but also there is the inherent violence and discord in the world that still exists. And for each generation, there are certain evils that still exist, that are levied towards women, that are levied towards other marginalized groups, or in fact, rogue regimes who, or yeah, well, rogue regimes who have certain kind of ideas about women, or other, kind of ethnic groups within their borders who they treat appallingly. Now, Wonder Woman comes to our world, and she doesn't understand all that. She doesn't understand all the conflict. She's been away for 2,000 years and hasn't seen how any of this has evolved. And to her, someone who comes from paradise, obviously this is very, very distressing, and she wants to use her powers and skills to address certain of these issues. She wants to bring peace to man's world. She wants to end war. She wants to end poverty. She wants to end a number of different other things. Things that surely, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like, most people would like to see not in our world. So, in a sense, the whole story of Wonder Woman um, becomes this kind of allegory, or this kind of satire, by highlighting this other society, this all-female peaceful society, and contrasting it with our world. We get to explore and see how weird and strange some of the things that we do are, to the uneducated eye. So things like genocides, you know, what kind of madness is that? What kind of evil would lead men to kill their own people in vast amounts, or kill another race in vast amounts just for the color of their skin, or whatever it may be. This kind of way of highlighting by transferring someone who's alien to our society to kind of look at these things is a very, very interesting point. And I think, her naivety about the whole situation, and our ability to therefore look at our world through her eyes, is actually a really, really fascinating thing about the character, because um, suddenly things like racism, why would somebody hate another person because of their race? That doesn't make any sense. All of these things start looking very, very bizarre to Wonder Woman, where on her island there are black women, there are white women, there are whatever women, and they're fine. They've never even thought of race before, or sexuality, with people hating someone because they love somebody of their own sex. Again, Wonder Woman is like, how can that be? That makes no sense to her. And yet, at the same time, one of the beauties of her story is like, when she first tastes ice cream or something like that, and she's able to at the same time experience how amazing the potential that this great world that we've constructed is. So I just think that's very, very poignant, and it didn't have to be an all-women society. You could take that story and do any. You could be peaceful aliens from beyond the stars, and they come here and they're trying to understand why all of these things are happening, and that is Wonder Woman in a nutshell. And I think that is why she appeals to feminists. That story, that concept, is something that feminists have often written about, how warmongering the world is, how it's dominated by certain a certain minority of men who ideologically spread their beliefs and cause wars and cause whatever. It's often concentrated on the evils done against women in the name of kind of rogue regimes and dictators and etc., etc., etc. And Wonder Woman has this really, really great way of exploring that and just highlighting how absurd certain elements of our world are, which I hope most people are of the opinion that we should strive to evolve from that position. I hope most people are of that opinion. If that scares people, I am very, very worried about the world. That's all I can say. If that scares young people, that idea, and I don't understand why DC writers can't depict that. It's bizarre to me. I'm doing part 4 on the Rogues Gallery and her lack of media representation.